He continues, "It's weird, fully knowing your cat wouldn't dare help you in a pinch, but y'all be single? How?" With intention. Street remarks sometimes took the form of the man making a crude joke, making some generic comment about sex, or even discussing his own body rather than focusing on my own. The latter instances felt more like trolling than anything else. Knowing that it's considered inappropriate to raise the subject of sex with a woman they are not acquainted with, these harassers purposely broke this taboo in order to get a rise out of me. Indeed, many of the street remarks I encountered made me feel as though I was merely a specimen that they were prodding with some proverbial stick in the hopes of getting any type of reaction out of me, whether it be embarrassment, offense, or other. It was precisely these sorts of non-sexually motivated encounters with strange men that confused me the most upon transitioning, as I had no framework for understanding them. In fact, during all of these incidences, I was treated as though I was fuckable. Not in a people want to have sex with me way, but rather in that these people felt it was totally okay to fuck with me, to interrupt or interrogate me, or otherwise intervene or interfere in my day-to-day life. My harassers acted as though I had invited their invitation, when in fact I had done nothing of the sort. Because I was perceived as inviting these men's attention, due to the fact that I was a woman in public, my harassers' intrusions were suddenly deemed warranted, and it was my protest against these intrusions that were now deemed inappropriate. So, a few weeks ago, I posted this reel to my Instagram feed. Not only is my cat perfect, she is adorable, she is feisty, and I will die protecting her. If you're at all familiar with me, you can see that this is clearly a joke, as I am nothing if not committed to a joke. However, my stupid dummy butt forgot that not everyone understands or jives with my sense of humor. And once you put something out there on the internet, it doesn't belong to you. And people can comment however they please with little to no accountability. Now, I'm usually pretty good about making my peace with this cold fact, but I also have a Scorpio moon, so sometimes I don't want peace. Sometimes I want complete and utter annihilation of people's perceived biases, of course. The comments in question. Cat people really weird. Y'all really love your cats unconditionally. How is you supposed to love an animal? Because, we can't speak to them. So, only loving your animal if it does what you say, when most of the time it's not going to understand you, doesn't make sense. You feel me? It just doesn't. And also, is that the kind of attitude you'd adopt to a child? You know what? We'll get there. He continues, "It's weird, fully knowing your cat wouldn't dare help you in a pinch, but y'all be single? How?" My response, with intention. A follow-up, on purpose, vigilantly, enthusiastically, intensely, deliberately, hyper-focused. Comment yours below. But somebody replied to his comment. Childless behavior. And then somebody else commented. No kids, raised eyebrow emoji. Back rolls. Now, thankfully I screenshotted those because they since seem to have been deleted. But either way, to some people, these comments may seem annoying, sure, but Maybe these folks just don't like cats. Maybe these people find your love of pets strange. And what's wrong with that? Cats can tell if you're truly kind, not just surface level kind. They can't be bought or manipulated, and they're the epitome of meeting and loving things as they are. So if you don't like them, it quietly says more about you, but I digress. Not liking cats is honestly whatever. What confused me the most, though, about these comments was all this talk of children. Cause I didn't mention kids, did y'all? Beyonce, did you mention kids?
No.
Jesse, did you mention kids at all? No. Okay. David, did you mention kids?
No, that's not a good idea.
No. So if none of us mentioned children, how on earth did these ashy gremlins? Khadija, that is not fair. Gremlins cannot help being ashy. Okay, Khadija. How did these edonts, that's my acronym now for if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, but I had to shorten it, so edonts. How did these edonts think that they had the right to not only question me about being single and childless, but simultaneously perceive my love for my cat as some sort of clear void that I'm trying to fill because I'm single and don't have kids to better occupy my time? Kids and a man to better occupy my time? So in other words, misogyny? Thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful night. Thank you. But in all seriousness, it might seem like I'm reading too much into it, but then I saw another video of a black girl in a bonnet clearly joking about how she literally gave birth to her dog, no epidural. And there were a lot of comments that could tell it was a joke and they understood and it was funny. Even people that have kids were like, yep, that's how I feel about my pets, my kids, whatever, you know, joking around. But some other ones were, I was like, what is going on with y'all? For example, women who don't have kids and think their dogs are the same as having kids need a fucking reality check. That is all. Ooh, why are you so mad? Ooh, girl. I'm kidding. Don't say her name. I'll bleep it out. But ooh, girl. I'm sorry, but people who compare being a pet owner to being an actual parent are suffering from psychosis. If you've never really witnessed psychosis before in your life, don't throw that term around. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't. If you've never witnessed it, if you've never been affected by it, don't throw it around like that. And if you have and you're still throwing it around like that, examine. Please. Because what? Psychosis? Girl, do you think a human would... It's like... Yeah, okay, never mind. Because sometimes people don't understand tone indicators and stuff. I understand that to an extent. But some of these responses are wild. Like, it's not about tone indicators or whatever. It's like people are just upset that a seemingly single woman that's an adult would talk about their pet in such a way. Anyway, she was doing the kids comparison. I wasn't even talking about kids. But anyway, when women are single in public, there is this constant attention to if they're dating, if so, when are they going to get married and/or have kids. It's novel to see a single childless woman above a certain age being celebrated for that achievement. Though I think that is changing. Like, I appreciate someone like a Tracee Ellis Ross, even though I think she does get her fair share of people being like, yeah, it's rare to see a single childless woman of a certain age that's doing it on purpose with intention be celebrated for it as an achievement, because we don't see it as an achievement. In this life, being a single childless woman above a certain age means people have the right to not only question you about your lack of family, quote, but also use it as a dig, as a way to mock, harass, or belittle you because opting out of the nuclear family model means something's wrong with you, because why else are you here if not to be a mother and/or wife? Even in our modern times, people are getting married and having kids less, for sure. But there are still narratives that abound when you meet a single person, particularly a single woman, over a certain age. It seems we clearly still care. And I want to know why. I'm specifically trying to answer the following questions. Who is it that is actually mad at single childless women? Like, who's in these comments, you know? Why are they mad about single childless women? And these are all theories, speculations. And finally, because you know we gotta talk about the gender of it all. What is this really saying about the rigid ways we understand and ascribe gender? So, without further ado, bonjour nakam hi, and welcome back to my channel, After Dark. If you're new and everything I said sounds interesting to you, stick around. We're going to give a quick shout out to our sponsor and then get into it. And our sponsor today, listen, whether you're single or not, you will thank me. You will thank me, okay? So just get into the message. Just get into, well, okay, I don't like to make promises, but just get into the message. Thank you to the Lalo Dot for sponsoring today's video. Hey girlie, listen, I just want to say thank you. You may be the best toy I've ever come across. Multiple orgasms, a gentle elliptical motion with 8 different types of speeds, and best yet, pinpoint accuracy so that my vagina doesn't get all numb. You really are that girl. You're that girl for all the girls. Just give me a moment. I said I wouldn't do this. You're that girl for all of us that are in the group, that are in the chat talking to the girlies like, you know, I just tried a new toy. You guys got to try it. You know who you are if you're that person. You're not just for me on my own. You've also been a great team player when I've had partners. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my vulva. Thank you. In all seriousness though, Lilo is actually going to be hosting an orgasmic personality quiz. So you can head to the link in my description to find your orgasmic personality type. And while you're there, do yourself the favor of getting the Lilo Dot. Thank you again to Lilo for sponsoring today's video. And thank you to you. Just thank you. You'd be correct to assume that my initial speculation of who exactly is so upset with us childless single girlies would be the fellas. The comments I received were from men, but it would be too easy to say that it's only men who feel this way. And we also know that not all men feel this way because people are not a monolith. It simply isn't true that it would only be men, because if Don't Worry Darling taught me anything, it's that some women are all about upholding the patriarchy too. I think. Honestly, that movie was like almost good, but then it just wasn't. But let's use a better, more layered example. Buckle up, we're going to Westeros. So obviously there will be spoilers for Hot D, aka House of the Dragon, aka House of Dragons. You were warned. Oh, too long didn't watch. Hot D, House of Dragons is all about the lead up, I guess, to the civil war of the Targaryens between the Greens and the Blacks. There are plenty of videos that explain the timeline, the events, but for this video, you just need to know that the HBIC for the Blacks, it's Princess Rhaenyra and Rhaenyra Targaryen. And the one for the Greens is technically her younger half-brother Aegon, but it's kind of like his mama, Queen Alicent. It seems the main directives the showrunners gave the actors playing the younger and older versions of Princess Rhaenyra and Queen Alicent was that Princess Rhaenyra's vibe was punk rock and Queen Alicent's vibe was like, what if it was, quote, women for Trump? Speaking on this direction, the actor who plays Queen Alicent, Olivia Cooke, had this to say. I just didn't want to give them any more mental real estate than they already had. So I tried to find a different route into her. But I could see what they were saying with this complete indoctrination and denial of her own autonomy and rights. I just couldn't be asked to go down that road. There are many moments between Queen Alicent and Princess Rhaenyra and their families that lead up to what will eventually be known as the Dance of Dragons, because bitches was fighting with dragons. One of the underlying tensions between the two women, and it seems for now a lot from Queen Alicent's side, is that, quote, indoctrination and denial of her own autonomy, as Olivia Cooke said. Queen Alicent is dedicated to duty, to honor, to sacrificing everything for the realm. She's been indoctrinated into this world, meaning she's been told to believe in the way that things are without pushback, without asking why or challenging the intentions of those creating this standard. In the Hot D House of Dragons show, this means Queen Alicent ends up marrying a man way older than her, having him bed her, having 4 children by him, and basically just living her life under the patriarchy and at its whims. This is also orchestrated by her father in the show. In the books, it seems that she has a bit more agency, she's a bit more power hungry, but the show decided to go in a different direction. Going to Princess Rhaenyra. She is not a single childless woman. She has 3 kids and is married to her cousin, Rhaenyra Valerian, but Rhaenyra is a friend of Latifah. He's one of the girls, you know. And all 3 of their kids are bastards. So Princess Rhaenyra is just out here kind of doing her own thing. Her father, Queen Alicent's husband, I'm sorry, this is confusing to y'all, sounds like a soap opera. But Queen Alicent's husband, Rhaenyra's father, made Rhaenyra his heir. Even though at that time in Westeros, women weren't meant to rule. That was, the lords of Westeros would never allow it. That's what you keep hearing in the show. Princess Rhaenyra is out here, like I said, sleeping with a man that is not her husband, literally having 3 children by them, with pale skin and brown hair, with a dad that's allegedly supposed to be this man from chewing gum, hey, and is daring people like, say something. Say these aren't his kids. I dare you. It's treason. Because she knows her dad is going to believe her. Damn, it's wild. Anyway, Princess Rhaenyra is really pushing the boundaries of what a woman is allowed to do, should be allowed to do, who and what she can be. And Queen Alicent has just gone along and done what she's been told to do. And that tension, that frustration and resentment has been building up for years. Oh, Lydia. Oh my God. Queen Alicent watching Princess Rhaenyra do as she pleases while she hasn't had the luxury or hasn't ever dared to give herself the luxury, even in a time, especially in a time like that. Let's just roll the clip, shall we?
What have I done but what was expected of me? The family, the law. Will you flout it all to do as you please? Alicent! Duty, where is sacrifice?
Okay, now why are we talking about the Dragon Show? Because even though the punk rock versus woman for Trump direction is simplistic and low-key shows how some of the men working on the show view women, I, like the actor playing Queen Alicent, can see what they were trying to get at. And maybe I'm doing too much mental labor to help them, these men flesh out what they were really trying to say. But hey, I'm a woman. It's what we're socialized to do. Being raised and socialized as a girl, you learn pretty early on that you exist for others. Deference, care, nurturement, if that's a word. These are all things expected of one classified and socialized as girl, woman. To the point where some folks would claim that these are a few of the many biological differences between men and women. Women are meant to sacrifice their bodies to have children and to sacrifice whatever time and energy they have left to do unpaid domestic labor on top of regular labor, unless they can afford to hire out the labor, typically to poor, racialized women of color. Speaking from my own experience, it always felt like I was being, and like looking back on it especially, but even at the time, it felt like I was being like bred to be a good wife and mother. And then on top of that, was still expected to work outside of the house. And that's something that I witnessed my mom do, working 2, sometimes 3 jobs, and coming home to do what Arlie Russell Hochschild and Anne Mashuk called the second shift. Second shift basically referring to the domestic tasks, childcare duties, other household work outside of your paid work. So keeping all of that in mind, the expectation that we have of those that are socialized, brought up as women, young girls and women, the example of, and even though these are fictional characters, it works well, the example of 2 different types of woman in this show, however flatly depicted, again, squinting to draw the parallels here, where one is on the side of the spectrum of duty and honor. They see this person as a nationalist, essentially. Everything for country. I believe in the traditional roles, anything for quote unquote the realm. And then you have the other side, the more quote unquote punk rock, or just more a rejection of the rules. It's interesting to note that it like, and this is a side thing, they're trying to talk about how Alicent is like women for Trump, and then Rhaenyra is like, you know, punk rock. And like, I'm team black all day. Lydia. Clearly Lydia is too. But also, Rhaenyra gets away with all this stuff because she's the heir. And there's very little you can do. Even claiming her children are bastards is a treasonous act. So she got a lot of privilege. Like both of these, it's really giving like these 2 white women are duking it out and are going to destroy the whole, and are going to destroy the Targaryen line eventually. And because of all this stuff, you're eventually just not going to see dragons after a while. Like, you see, it's giving the exact same thing the dudes were doing in all the other wars and uprisings and whatevers and stuff, but pink. Let's just keep that in mind. Anyway, side tangent done. If you're a woman and you've spent your whole life sacrificing in little and big ways, doing what you're told, punching in that second shift for free, knowing you also have to provide a bunch of emotional labor because it apparently comes more, quote, naturally to you. If you have to deal with that day in and day out, and then you see another woman who, for whatever reasons, may have rejected some, most, or even all of the expectations placed on women in this society, and she seems to be having fun while doing it, maybe there might be a touch of jealousy there. Or not jealousy, envy. Envy is to be more specific. Or envy, it's, if I can't have it, you shouldn't be able to. And I don't mean that in a nasty, malicious, judging those people way of how dare you feel that way. I'm saying this because I get it. Like, in an alternate universe, if I was pregnant and had kids or whatever, and I'm still this same personality type, I'd probably be very resentful, low key, but not be able to admit that to myself because you're not supposed to be even a tiny bit resentful of your kids. I think it's fair to an extent because you're giving up a lot to have children. But obviously some people, and I think it's good to acknowledge it because I think if you don't, you end up resenting your kids and then taking out a lot of your resentment of your unfulfilled or unlived life on your children when they didn't have to be here. But anyway, I understand that there are going to be some women that will see posts that I made, even if they're a joke, or the one that the girl made about her dog being a child, no epidural, women that have had to have children, women that have had complicated births, have really not been able to have epidurals and how painful that is. My sister told me about that. Ooh, Lord, no thank you. So I understand why people would be upset as well and respond in this way. Also, kids are hard. They are work. And if you don't have one and you're boasting about it online, or you're talking about your pet as a comparison to having to stay up all night and breastfeed and your boobs hurt, all the things that come with even just like, I'm putting mothering in quotes, but mothering aside, I would be a little salty if people were comparing the pets to kids. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Like, it's just whatever. Either way, giving some compassion for some women for financial, political, or even cultural reasons that don't have the luxury of opting out of some model of the nuclear family, getting married, having kids, please understand, I'm not speaking to those women. I'm speaking to the folks with a similar amount of political or financial freedom who choose this model. Then shit on the rest of us that don't choose it. To them, maybe there's even a sense that us, childless single women are selfish, shirking off responsibility. And to that I say, yes. If a woman's duty, nature, purpose is mainly about providing for others, deviations from that innate caring nature might be read as weird, abnormal, and even selfish. If you're the giver in a relationship, constantly giving things little and big, domestic tasks, emotional labor, and emotional labor as described in Kate Manson's title, emotional labor also encompasses the work of managing the feelings around this task, not to ruffle a male partner's feelings, for example, by pointing out he has done something badly and avoiding asking for too much of his help or support within a household. She goes on to explain that this creates a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation where not asking means you're stuck doing more of the lion's share of the household work, plus the emotional labor on top of that. And then if you do ask, you'll be, a nag. Specifically if you don't ask in the right way and then you keep asking. Because that goes against how we're taught to keep the, quote, peace, nurture others, and not be too demanding. I don't know about y'all, but that sounds exhausting. And I don't want to participate. I do not dream of free domestic and emotional labor for anyone other than myself. And those I choose. I want to be allowed and take advantage of the luxury of being selfish because I know a lot of women do not get to be. They don't get to choose that. Again, having a family is no joke. It is an incredibly large responsibility. You are molding and shaping a human person that will go on to interact with and affect other human beings in minuscule and consequential ways. That's not something you just do. Committing your life to someone, making promises to them, not knowing how things are going to pan out a year from now versus 50, that is a serious commitment. But let me ask y'all something. If you told people you were getting engaged tomorrow, would any of them look at you sideways or weird unless you're someone who maybe yelled that you would never get married? Now, and this is sort of a false equivalence, but just go with me here. If you told people you were marrying yourself, or not even that, not even marrying, let's say you just told people you were getting a second cat, what kind of reaction do you think they're gonna have? Especially if you're a woman of a certain age. Now, I'm not saying that having a cat is more important than a fiance for whoever out there is engaged. Love that for you, girl. For me, though, I'd rather have a second cat. And even if you don't love that for me, it should not upset you to the point of sarcastically commenting on my lack of children. But I recently also read a book that kind of shifted my perspective on another addition that could be added to this of why it seems so okay for, anyone to just comment on people's personal lives in that way, specifically the personal question of needing to know the information of if someone's going to have kids, if they plan to, whatever, when they're going to settle down. But yeah, it's given me a better language for it. So let's go to the next section. So I read stuff earlier in the video from Sereno's Sex Stuff, and the chapter that the excerpt that I was reading from is called Unwanted Attention, and it specifically focuses, it mostly focuses on street harassment, but she makes a specification between being sexually objectified and being fucked with. With that being fucked with ability, it's like a kind of harassment that's in place simply because the object of the harassment is deemed quote unquote weaker, or is expected. It's expected that, yeah, we fuck with girls. I don't know how else to say it. Like, and let me be very specific. I'm not saying that these men harassed me. Like, it was irritating, yes. I was looking at it like, oh my God, you really didn't need to say it, but okay. Like, it wasn't harassment to me. If they were sending me DMs nonstop, yelling about how I'm a childless psychopath, I don't know, then that would be harassment. They were not harassing me. They were, though, tapping into that same sort of, and online makes it a bit more complicated because I think all of us have access to that anonymity and lack of accountability that I was talking about before, where you can say whatever, and most times people aren't going to know who it is that's saying that. Or they don't assume you see the comments, because if it gets a certain number of views, people don't think that the person who created it sees that. And I'm like, girl, if you're putting stuff on the internet for attention, you're going to see some of the comments. You're going to see most of them. Come on now. But it's something I notice with guys online, and yeah, women that seem to be very emboldened in their not just girl bossness, but like their conservative girl bossness. I don't know, that kind of vibe. There seems to be a very like in your face, this is how women should be and behave. And I think what I would hope a lot of progressive type people are fighting for is the right for a woman to be able to be however they want to be. So if you would like to be able to be more sexually open, you can. If you want to be more reserved, you can. If you want to have kids and a family, you can. If you do not, you can. And it's not some giant judgment on you or a way that random men online use to troll you, essentially. And the trolling part that she talks about in the quote speaks a lot to especially online spaces, because the internet is nothing if not filled with trolls. It's also a space where there are men that definitely aren't as extreme as like manosphere types, but they still hold a lot of low-key misogynist perspectives. They can find each other and talk shit in the comments, you know? And I'll say this has been my experience and what I've witnessed online. The way that a lot of men seem to do this is by either like shaming women for their looks, if they try to shame the looks, talk about how ugly or you just die, whatever, blah, 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 or say we're doing too much, like why do you have to dress that way, all these different ways of commenting and inserting their opinions on women's bodies. It's like, okay, well, if you put online then and you didn't want an engagement, then you should have made it private. That is fair. I get that. At the same time, though, you're putting a lot of responsibility on us. Like, why would you put online? But you're not at all questioning why you would react that way to seeing a woman's photo like that. Like, why is it always this side that has to do the understanding? Do y'all see what's happening here? You see how that extra work, that unsaid extra labor? Okay. It's this fuckableness, aka I can fuck with you-ness, that a lot of dudes exhibit online with women. And like I said, they'll talk about your looks to try and shame you. They'll talk about you're doing too much, or they'll talk about your lack of being able to keep a man. That is one of the favorite excuses some men will use online to try and make women, I guess, feel bad or to try and troll them or roast them or whatever they're trying to do. Anytime I see it, I'm just like, is missing out on a husband and children supposed to make me sad? Because the way some of y'all have been acting lately, I'm all right. I'm sorry, this is not time. T said it wasn't a time to be cute. She was right. Let's get into the final thoughts because I have some things and then I'm going to edit this down because it is 7 a.m. and I have 3 hours to get this in. We're fucking doing it. Ooh, Lord. This one was pre-recorded. It had to be pre-recorded, but yeah. To be honest, I'm kind of appreciative of the comments even though they were deleted because it showed me that one, yeah, I'm not nuts about noticing these things because the way the world is, it's like you explain something, and this is also something that Julia Sereno talks about in Sexed Up. If you're, let's say, queer and you're talking about something, people will be like, well, your queerness is getting in the way or clouding your judgment, as if like their position is the default and therefore they can be completely neutral. It's like, girl, we're all biased. Stop the lie. Stop the lie of objectivity. Just stop it, please. Who are you trying to fool, girl? Anyway, it was nice to see that almost, because even though I rolled my eyes, it confirmed to me that yes, like I have seen in the world, there are men that think this way. And just because there are men that don't, men and women, people who, however you identify, just because you are one of those people that doesn't, does not mean you need to be naive. Damn, that was not, it was, listen, I haven't slept. It's 7 a.m. and I'm gonna be editing this after, okay? So I don't have time to be nice. I think it's interesting that maybe some people will interact with this and say, well, if you don't want people commenting on stuff, then you shouldn't put it out there. And again, I understand to an extent, but I'm also about like, there's always accountability to be had in varying degrees on both ends. Do you know what I mean? Unless something wild happens, then yes, there are times where somebody is more accountable. You know what? Actually, there are many times where somebody is more accountable. Different situations, but speaking for the times where in this situation, let's say, I put something out on the internet, same as if I go out into the real world and just exist. I am expecting, yes, that maybe some people will say things or interact. I'm expecting that people will interact with me, all of that, especially as well being a semi-public figure to an extent. I make my peace with the fact that if people recognize me and they're like, hey, do you do YouTube? I'm gonna say, yeah, I do, and speak with them because I knew what I signed up for to an extent. Especially because it's YouTube, I know that I'm not gonna be super hugely famous anytime soon, so it's not a worry to like, it's YouTube, you know? I just think this is a lot of proof that we still have a lot of work to do on the way we discuss gender. And I want people to understand me. If you're someone who has grown up with the gender binary and it feels nice and cozy to you and you don't have to question anything in your mind, sure. I'm not someone that thinks like that. I need to be skeptical of things. I need to try things out for myself to know if I really do want it. Like, I can't just let someone tell me something's good for me. I have to know and understand if it is. And part of that is, you know, not great. Sometimes that's not great. It's trust issues. It's not the best character trait to have, but I also appreciate it because it gives me discernment and it allows me the ability to think critically about the things that seem like the normal, quote, standard. You don't come to the conclusion of not wanting to have kids, at least in my perspective, for me, my experience was, I didn't come to the conclusion of not wanting to have kids and not wanting to be married overnight and lightly. I had always kind of felt this way growing up. I used to joke that having kids, well, not joke, I was serious, but I was also young. I still kind of feel this way, but like that having kids was narcissistic because I was just like, if I were to ever have kids, I would have to adopt, because in my mind, like I've always said this, because I just was like, what is the point of like having another version of me coming down? And like, I know people talk about ancestral line and all this stuff. And again, if that's what you are dedicated to, creating a legacy like the sea snake, nerd, Khadija, okay. But if that's what you're into, cool. Not everyone is into that. And for me, the way I'm into it is like doing this stuff. Like the internet stuff's gonna outlive me. So maybe, I don't know actually, but whatever. Whatever I put out here in the world when people interact with it, it'll outlive me, and that's good for me. I don't need to have like, I don't know. It just having kids is such a like literally having a child with my own body, it doesn't make sense to me. And I know that there are some people out there that are like, it doesn't make sense why you wouldn't want to have one. I get it. To each their own. Different strokes for different folks, okay? But it's not a decision that I came to lightly. There was about a year in my 20s, maybe a year and a half, after I had done therapy for a bit and like started to heal from my relationship with my parents and like all the hurt, resenting, built up feelings that I never expressed or expressed in really inappropriate ways, or when I expressed didn't feel listened and all that stuff. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a mom. I could do it. I can right the wrongs. I can break this ancestral curse. It's not a curse, but like, I can break this trauma. I can heal, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, or I can just chill for the rest of my life. Because a bitch is tired. Like, it's only been 30 years, but it's also been 30 years. You know? For me, pour moi, les enfants, no. No. Merci. Because I don't know, I'm excited about being able to live my life the way I want to get to be selfish in the way that my mom wasn't able to, in the way that plenty of women in my family that I've seen, plenty of women that I haven't seen, that I don't know, that I do, that might be watching this, socialize as such for a while, or I don't know, just having a whole section of the population meant to sacrifice in this way. Because I'm not saying that we don't also expect men to sacrifice in certain ways too. Trust me, it's harming us all, fellas, okay? It's harming us all. But anyway, yeah, just expecting all of this sacrifice and then expecting that you're able to even give to the kids that you have when you don't also have that support, you know? Because I'm not saying it's impossible. Like, there are also really great parents out there that raise their kids in different ways, in communal ways, or in a traditional way, and they're just the bomb. Like, again, if you like that for you, do your thing. Me, the planet, it's not looking good, folks. And there are too many kids out there already. I don't need to populate the earth further from my perspective. Also, I just want to be able to enjoy the rest of my life in a way that my parents weren't able to because they were sacrificing. Because what were they sacrificing if not for me to be able to fucking whore my personality out on YouTube in queer lighting? This is what the ancestors fought for. Okay, y'all, I'm so tired. Okay. All that to say, it is perfectly okay. The last side thing that I really should have started with, there are also people that cannot have children. And you just butting your nose into other people's business, especially, let's say, people that adopt pets because maybe they can't get children and adoption is difficult. Maybe they can't have children and adoption is difficult, and all these things they've exhausted all their resources, and they're like, well, let's get some pets. You saying to those people, wow, you must not have kids. Imagine how painful that must feel. I don't want kids at all. And I'm willing to at least try and empathize with the fact that that's not something you should say just because you never know. That was a side thing, but please. Oh, yeah. If you want to have kids, If you have kids, yay for you. If you shoot an arrow and it goes real high, hooray for... I'm kidding. I'm tired, y'all. But yeah, if you have kids, freaking awesome. Cool. The rest of us that don't want them, awesome. Cool. Those of you that are just putting your nose in people's business, or like you see content online, also, you should expect that you're going to interact with content. That is the nature of putting things on the internet now. It's just you're gonna run into strangers. So in the same way that I have to make my peace with the fact that y'all are gonna say some wild shit, y'all should also maybe just make your peace with the fact that you're gonna see shit you don't like and you can just not engage. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Listen, as always, be sure to feed your plants, water your plants, and remember that you can always change your mind, because you can. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye. You did it. You did it. Oh my God.